Hello, this is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy, and we're going to have another episode here of our bed bug detection dog training course with Charlie. And where we are at with him is that we are now increasing the items and somewhat the distance that I'm requiring Charlie to search before we get to the find, and I'm reducing the size of the find at the same time. So as you've probably noticed, and I've mentioned a couple of times, it's just a matter of now changing the environment, changing the memory picture so that the dog cannot really get used to one thing. There's some tools that are used in detection work that I think are very valuable in one aspect. Some I think are worthless, but there are some that I think are valuable. The cinder blocks, right? For me, that's valuable because it really focuses in on the odor that I'm trying to imprint on the dog's olfactory system. And then there's other ones. They're called. They've been given the name Dutch box. They're not even. They weren't even made by the Dutch. They were made by somebody, I don't know, somewhere here in the United States. There's a long story that goes along with it that I won't tell you and bore you. But one day, if you get a hold of me, say, hey, tell me the story about the Dutch boxes. And you will find out how many lunatics there are in the canine world and dog training world. But that's a whole nother story. And so those tools actually is really good. I mean, aside the story that I have about them, the tool is actually a very good tool. It's just you can't get stuck doing those things for a very long period of time because it really doesn't progress, right? It's great for doing some aspects, right? Imprinting, the cinder blocks are great for imprinting, but then we don't come back to them unless we have a problem with a dog who is now focusing on something else. Say, for instance, the dog suddenly is focused on plastic bottles, right? We will then go back to something like the cinder blocks because we can really focus by crushing down a bunch of plastic bottles, put them in the cinder blocks, and now force the dog to go past all the bottles that he has somehow become connected to. Show him that, no, you ignore all those bottles and you're only to find this one thing. In this case, bed bugs. It would be marijuana, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, C4, dynamite. It depends on what it is. Where we can focus the odors that we don't want the dog to focus on, right, with the cinder blocks, and then also put these other things we want him to begin to ignore. Right. So the cinder blocks are something that we start at the beginning. We kind of don't do much with them later on unless we need to teach the dog something specific, and then they get pulled back out again. We reduce those numbers, but now we do what we're going to show you in the video I've prepared for you for Charlie's training at the church, where we want to change the environment now constantly, throwing in a distraction here and there. In this case, this was by accident. Somebody was walking by and dropped something and caught the dog's attention through his hearing. And that's fine. All that stuff is fine. I don't take any of that out. That's one thing that shocks many, at least especially back when I was training a lot more police officers. It would shock them coming to my training is that I would leave everything in that they were afraid of, like other dogs. I would leave in distractions with food and like pour dog food on the ground and say, search. And they would go, are you crazy? There's dog food on the ground. Search, and then make them search through it. And so those things, those challenges, those opportunities to merely make sure your dog understands, I don't care what it is you're coming across, it's still all about the odor and about the alert, right? Regardless of everything that's going on. I've brought bed bug dogs from all over the place to the church that you're going to see in this video. And in the sanctuary where you see all the seats in the stadium type of seating that we have there is one of the things I do is I bring all the dogs that attend training into that run room, and we all search at the same time. And there's people that have never done that. They've never searched a room when there's been another dog, no matter what the size. And they go, my dog won't search. Well, that's because you've never made your dog do it. And you've never made that a part of your training and made it, part of the dog's experience, so that it doesn't matter. It could be totally ridiculous. I'm not going to do something totally ridiculous all the time, but every so often it doesn't hurt to see how challenging you can make something, to see if the dog will still just understand it's about the odor and the alert, right? No matter what it is. And a little bit about the searching pattern and all that kind of stuff, ignoring anything else that might be happening. So here we are on this training day. And so increased the size of the search and the amount of things the dog has to sniff, and reduce the size of the find. And so up to this point, the dogs has more often been finding multiple vials that have multiple bugs inside them. And so this will be the first time that I've increased the distance and now reduced it down to one vial. In some cases, there's 2 or 3 bugs in a vial. In other cases, there's many bugs in a vial because, as I will describe in the video, obviously one of the female bugs that was in the vial was pregnant and laid some eggs, and now there's a lot more bugs in there when I first got them. So something happened, right? And so now so in some of the vials there's a lot more bugs, but now we have nymphs and eggs and things like that. Other things are other odors, which are nymphs and eggs, and then of course the adults of what we want the dog to teach him to find. So it's perfectly fine. So increase distance and increase the number of things the dog has to sniff, and reduced the size of the find. Before I go on, I want to talk to you about later on in a couple hours after this video, I'm going to be visiting some of the subject matter that I talked about that we're going to be discussing. And this will be the first time I'm doing, I can't think that I've ever done this, but I may have, do 2 shows in one day. The next one's going to be on the bonker technique. I got asked what my opinion is on that, and I do have an opinion, and I will be doing that a little bit later on today. So about 6:30, 7-ish, somewhere around there, I'll be coming back live and talking about that bonker technique. So you want to be aware of that. And I also have a new book out that is a journal for trainers. So it's a Train the Dog Trainer journal. I talk about it a lot. So I got the new podcast. If you go to Train the Dog Trainer Facebook page, you'll see the podcast that I've been producing. I think I'm on episode 8 now. But now I have a book that goes along with it. I'm going to put it in the comment section where you can get this. Train the Dog Trainer journal. It is available on Amazon. And in the journal, I've put on every page on the right, I put a couple, like the dog's name, date, and that kind of stuff, and some other things that, about the human, about the dog, about some of the behaviors and stuff like that. And it's in a grade type of font so that you can use that to remind yourself that these are important things that you need to start all your journals with when you're training a new dog. So you need this information. And then obviously you can use as many pages as you want to describe the training that you've been doing with the dog. So on one day you'll put, the information, what the results were, what the outcome was, something that you learned, some technique that you changed. Maybe you changed from a pinch collar to a flat collar, and then you're going to write down the results. I think journaling is a fantastic thing for dog trainers and dog handlers so that they can remember, because when you write things down, on your mind, it'll burn it a little bit more firmly into your memory. And then let's say it doesn't, you have something now you can refer to. In the back of the journal, there's a couple pages where you can make a log entry where you put the date and what kind of happened, some keywords about what happened. And now it'll be easier for you to go back and say, where was that one about maybe changing the pinch collar to a flat collar. That'll be keywords. So you don't pinch collar to flat collar. Those will be keywords in one of the descriptors. You'll look at the date, and then on your journal, you'll go back to that date, and you'll be able to find that entry and read more detail about what happened. So I made it specifically for trainers, but handlers could use it too. Maybe I'll make a different one for handlers, but a handler definitely could use this journal. I would go ahead and get that. The link is now in the comment section. Hey, Stuart Lopez, can you train a dog that is 2 or 3 years old? Yes, as a matter of fact, most dogs I prefer to be that age when I train them. You don't want to train a dog that's too young. Now, there's some training you can obviously do with puppies in regard to obedience and things like that. But for working dogs, and I think that you're talking about working dogs, I'm not sure if you are or not, a working dog for detection, for police work. My police dog, for instance, was 2.5 years old when I got him for myself. I didn't get him. Another trainer got him, and then I was trained with him. So he was 2.5 when I started with him. So that's when we started training him to be a police dog, and then later on trained him to be a narcotics detection dog. And at that age, for detection, he was about 3 years old when we trained him for detection. The reason being is that the dogs are more mature, and their personalities are going to be pretty much what they are at the time that you're training them, and that will last you for the rest of their career, right? And so as a puppy, they're still growing. You would never have a 10-year-old be trained to be a police officer and put them out in the field, right? And so that's kind of the thing with puppies. If they're too young, you're putting something out there that's too immature, they're kind of flaky, they get distracted easy, and then if something bad happens, that bad thing will stick with them for a very long period of time. So you want to be careful about training a dog too young. Now, if you're talking about pet dogs, you want to start as early as possible, 6 weeks to 8 weeks. You can start with leash training, put a little leash on them, let them walk around, let them trip over, that kind of stuff. And then you're going to be training them some little tiny things, nothing complicated. Just begin to get them maybe environmentally trained, to get them used to being pet, get them used to being on their back, get them used to maybe a little light brushing, right, on the places that most dogs don't like. Get them used to it right away. Hold on to their paws a little bit and do stuff with their paws so that you can prepare them for nail clipping and things like that. Maybe begin rubbing their ears so that it feels good, so they don't later on get weirded out when you're trying to put medication in their ears if they happen to get an ear infection. So there's a lot of things you can prepare a dog for when they're very young. So training can start very young, but in relationship to working dogs and things like that, you're going to wait until the dog is a little bit older. Guide Dogs of America, for instance, they give their puppies to puppy raisers until the dog is old enough to begin training as a guide dog. And so many professionals in this area in regard to working dogs prefer to train a dog once they get a little bit older. All right. So I hope I answered your question. All right. So back to Charlie. Charlie, we're going to be taken into this church. You're going to see some searches. In this case, when I was editing the video, as far as giving the voiceover for it, there is a lot going on. So I hope I was able to get you the information that's important for you to know, because to me, right, you're watching the video if you are just beginning in this world and you're seeing a couple things, right, and you're catching them here and there. I have come to realize that there's things that I see that are hard for other people to see, because when I see them, they're gigantic, right? I'm watching, I'm not even a baseball fan, but here I am watching the World Series. The game last night was amazing. And I'm not that great of a baseball fan. I think it's very boring, but last night's game was everything but boring. So, but they were describing, I think it was yesterday's game, that the home run hitters, the batters that are known for hitting the ball, they are really good at seeing everything. They see that when a pitcher is getting ready to throw a slider, that they look a certain way, that their hand is in the glove a certain way. It's held this way when they're throwing a slider, and I'm just throwing, I don't even know for sure, but held like this when they're throwing a slider, and it's held like this when they're getting ready to throw a curve. And to a batter who knows how to hit a pitcher, they see those things as this, they're gigantic, like it just, like they can't miss it, right? And it becomes second nature. And little tweaks, like their foot may be turned out for something and their foot is turned in for something else, and they recognize and see it very fast. And that's kind of the thing with me with dog handlers and dogs, is that I see things like very clearly. And to me, when I'm describing them to you later on after I got done, I go, you know what, some of those things were very subtle and I can see them. And what I'm hoping by putting these videos out there for you to see is that you can watch them over and over again, and you can begin to train your eyes and your mind to catch little nuances. And some of them aren't that big. Like I'll say, the dog's energy level is suddenly increased. And to you, it may be very slight if you're not used to seeing this. But as you get trained, you'll see that it's actually very big. Just as dogs are masters at reading body language, a dog trainer, a dog handler needs to recognize these subtle changes in their dog to know when they're beginning to do something else, or begin to think about something, or begin to do something that's very important for you to know. All right. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping that you guys will get from watching these videos, if you are that interested, and become an expert in reading a dog and what it is they're doing. And the difference between a dog just sniffing, putting his nose, you're going to see him put his nose in between two chairs. You're going to see a difference between put his nose by one set of chairs and then put his nose in the set of chairs where there's the find. You're going to see that there really is a change in his behavior. There's a way that he looks. There's a thing that he does when he comes out. He'll stick his nose and kind of look at me and go, huh, I think I smell something, right? As opposed to coming in and then going out and continuing on. Like, that's a big one, right? You could see that. Dog sticks his nose in, comes out and goes, hey, I think I got something here. Sticks his nose in and goes, nothing really. And then the dog moves on. You're going to see those things. So I realize, for those of you that are saying, you know what, you're talking about stuff I don't even see. I don't even see what's happening. You will, if you continue to do this job. I promise you. And that's kind of my purpose for taking the video, bringing it back home, putting it onto the computer, and then doing a voiceover so I can better kind of get you into that frame of mind that you need to be to become an effective dog handler or a dog trainer. All right, so let me go here and find the video so I can bring it up. And these videos that I'm showing you are on YouTube, and I'm not, I'll have to maybe try to find the URL and give it to you if you just simply want to watch the video all by itself of me doing the voiceover, as opposed to this whole Facebook Live. but I don't have it handy here. It's on my other computer. And so I'm going to play the video now. Again, this is us doing training a couple days ago. I'm a little behind on our training. I already have training set up for today inside the house. And so we're beyond this a little bit, but this is what took place just a couple days ago. And so I hope you enjoy it, and I will begin it right now. All right, watch. All right, so this is going to be, I think it's probably our third or fourth day, third day in the church. Yes, third day in the church where we've now increased the items the dog is going to be required to search, and we've decreased the size of the find. We've brought it down to a single vial. Later on towards the end of the video, I'll show you what a vial looks like if you haven't seen one in a while, and with the number of bugs. Now, when I first got the vials, there were 5 adult bugs in each one of the vials, somewhere around there, 4 or 5. But since then, obviously, there were a couple females that were pregnant, because now there are several bugs inside of a vial, much of which are nymphs and I guess the other word would be baby bed bugs. So they're very tiny and small. So when you see the vial, you're going to see at least 1 or 2 adults, and you're going to see little things crawling around. Those are the offspring to the adults. All right, so that's what we've done. So I've increased the number of things I'm requiring the dog to search, and again, decrease the actual find down to a single vial, and depending on which vial is hidden, there can be anywhere from 2 adult bugs only, and then to a greater number of bed bugs, but including adults, nymphs, and eggs probably also, and what other age group you can fit in there. All right, let's go ahead and go to the video. Here's the room we're going to be searching. This is a room, again, that he's never been in. It looks like that, probably a lot like the last room, but there's a series of these meeting rooms at the church. And this is just another one with tables set up in a different configuration. That instead of the chairs being all folded up against the wall, they're actually unfolded and underneath the tables. And the find actually is right over here underneath the base of this bar stool type of thing. Sounds funny saying a bar stool inside of a church, but high top chair. All right, so it's right here there's a little hole where this leg kind of gets inserted, and there's a screw little thing in there, and then there's like a little space that I was able to fit the single vial inside. All right, so that's right there on this particular search. What you're going to notice, and I'm just going to tell you about it now, that right over here on this chair, and then even I think on, maybe it's this chair too, I can't remember which one, but this chair for sure, and this chair, the dog sticks his head through the opening here and somehow believes that he's supposed to sit. Just so if you're wondering, I've never hidden a bed bug vial, at least I never, as I cannot say that because I've been in this room several times. But the last time I was in this room was several months ago. So the likelihood of there being an odor that the dog is attracted to is very slim, and I doubt it. I think there's just something in the sense, maybe the way what you'll see on the video is kind of either me standing there looking at him, he's asking me a question like, is this where you want me to sit? And the dog's still trying to figure out, he's still trying to assume that there's other ways of getting that toy, right? He's assuming that I simply need to stick my head in something and sit, because perhaps that's one of the things he thinks he's done to be able to get the toy. He still hasn't figured out entirely that it should only be about the odor and locating the source of that odor and then sitting, right? He hasn't really been able to completely wrap his head around that that's the only thing that gets him the toy. But so he's going to try things. He's going to have belief systems that he's created up to this point, and so he's still working through those. When he does finally get into the odor, you can see his reaction is completely different. His body language changes, that kind of stuff. So I'll go ahead and watch the video, or we'll go ahead and start the video now. And you're going to see much of what I was just talking about. All right. I've also changed. Oh, I forgot this. I've also changed the toy to a rubber ball with a string on it Aldo, one of my trainers, loves to have this type of toy and being able to use this type of toy. Not every dog that we train will accept this as one of his toys, but it just so happens that Charlie does. And you're going to see it's going to be a little bit easier for me to work on him releasing the toy. Following this first video, I'm going to be in the same room, but I'm going to be showing how we train the dog using this toy now with a string on it to release the toy without having to put my hands on it. And it makes it a little bit easier. There's less fumbling around, grabbing his head and that kind of stuff. So if the other thing is maybe, if you're working on a dog, you're trying to get out of his mouth and it's going kind of slow, if you'll accept a toy with a string on it, this may be a solution for you. So you can see there's multiple ways to do things, and sometimes depending on how the dog reacts, you need to change how you're doing it, right? So, all right, here we go. I'll play. Stop teasing you. All right, so playing the video. Move my cursor so that gets out of the way. So now you can see the yellow ball has little nubs on it, so the dog can actually grip it a little bit better. It doesn't slip out of his mouth as easy. And he really likes it, so that's good. Again, I'm sorry I come out of frame, but this is a stationary, it's my phone that's held in a stationary position, so I apologize. I'm doing much of this training, obviously, most of it without any help, and so I don't have a camera person that can go. So here's Charlie. He's beginning to sniff. This is where he first becomes interested in that chair. All of this could have been because of that moment where I picked up the leash, I stopped. He was asking me a question at that time. He thought I'd answered it, so he's thinking, well, maybe it is this chair I'm supposed to be alerting to. But you see, his behavior is not the same as when he's in odor. His tail's not quite wagging as quickly. He's not as excited. He's wagging his tail out of like, well, what do you think? Am I doing a good job? But it's not what you'll see. Now kind of picture what's happening here. Look at his tail. It's just kind of wagging side to side. Watch when he gets towards that bar stool, how differently and how faster his tail wags. So there he wagged it faster because he saw me bending over. He thought he was going to get something. So ignore that. That had to do with my positioning. So he's trying it again. There's the chair that he thought he'd try it again. Somehow he's got in his belief system that it has to do with him sticking his head into something. Maybe he's tying it to me coming to a brief stop and looking at him. But now you see him passing by. Now he finds that same chair and he looks for me for direction, asking me questions. I'm going to say, I don't know what you're talking about, and just keep him searching. He's searching chairs over there, which is good, so I allow him to do that. It looked like he might have been going towards the bar stool because he was in odor, but he wasn't. He's checking underneath the table. It's hard to see, I know. I apologize. If I had a real cameraman to follow me around, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. I'm waiting for him to get done searching. I'm not going to pull him off or tell him he's doing something wrong if, in fact, he's doing something well. So look at his tail. So look at now it's wagging a lot faster. He's in odor, right? He just got done smelling odor, and he's trying to figure it out. So now it looks like it's even sticking out straight, which is called flagging. But watch as he kind of searches around. All that behavior, that getting up on his hindquarters, is him knowing that he's in odor. He just can't figure exactly where it's coming from. So somehow his movement, my movement, his tail wagging has caused this odor to kind of be dispersed in that area. So it's a little bit difficult for him to find a single vial of one or two little tiny bugs, because all this action obviously is pushing the odor all about now. So now he's trying to figure out, where did it originate from? Where did it come from? And this in a new dog is not that easy. One thing I failed to also point out, if you see me putting the leash down on the ground, that's because it's getting tangled up in his legs. So I put it on the ground so he'll step out of it, and that way I don't have to reach around his neck to get the leash. Here he's coming close to figuring it out. I will actually eventually point it out. I want him to be successful. Again, this is a new adventure, a new amount of bugs, and I point it out and make sure that his nose gets where it needs to be. So I kind of look at the whole stance change. He moves it. Now he's forgetting that he has got to sit, right? He's thinking, I found the odor. The leash was obviously causing some kind of problem there. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to grab the chair because I didn't want him pushing the chair around. So he puts his nose on it. I'm trying to help him understand that he's supposed to be sitting. He almost goes to a sit, but he stalls. I go, I can't give you the ball because you're not doing exactly what I need. What I need you to do is put your nose to source and then come to a sit. So there we reward. All right. So now we're going to show you a little bit about teaching him to release this ball. I wanted to get a find under his belt before I started working on this, before I started stressing him out a little bit. See how much easier it is? Now I can just reward him a lot faster.
And again, that leash is getting tangled around his legs. I need it not to be, so if I need to give him a correction, I can. Give him a sit. So I'm using obedience to help him understand that he's supposed to let go. So get him in that seated position. He gets up. I get him in a seated position. And releases. Good. So the act of getting him in an obedient posture, an obedience position, works on his brain that this is not playtime, and so he releases the toy. So what he's learning, if I am being given an obedience command and I have the ball in my mouth, if I let go, I will be able then to get out of this obedience position, right? So we're working on a couple things on his brain here, that not only do I want you to let go, but if you want to play, if you don't want to let go, I'm going to make you sit. And once you let go in that seated position and thereby following my command and being obedient, I will let you play again. So get him in that seated position and then let him play. You see now we're using a little bit of not complex but compounding theories here of obedience, release. See there, he almost broke it on his own. I'm going to pet him and see what he does. He'll grab for the ball and it's not a time. I didn't give him permission. So now I'm teaching the difference. All right, good. So now we're going to work into a different part of the church. Now, the bed bugs are, again, a single bed bug. I'll show you them at the end of this video. Is right between chair, if we were to count from here, 1, 2, 3, between 3 and 4, right inside here. I'm going to start off camera, begin the search, and what I really like to see with this dog is that he's already sticking his head between things to try to find that odor. Look at it, on his own. And we've never searched this room in this manner before. We've searched the room before, and we've searched these chairs before, but not necessarily in this manner where he's got to learn to stick his nose in between. Look at that. Stick his nose in between the chairs, and he's doing a really good job. Here, he sniffs it. He actually sniffs it there and passes by it. Either he actually didn't smell it, or, again, the positioning, the way that things are in the scenario that trying to push his head through there. Whatever it was, it just wasn't clicking, right? Again, that's why he heard a noise, so it distracted him. Now here, you can see his tail wagging a little better. Now he's bobbing up and down. He's smelling the odor. He's asking me questions. And there, I wasn't sure that he actually had put his nose on the object. So we're going to go ahead and reboot and start again. Again, simply him putting his face in there doesn't mean to me that he smelled it. I want to see something that actually tells me he smelled like that. There he told me he smelled it. Do you see the way he reacted and looked around? That tells me that he actually smelled it. There, the delay is too long between him sitting and smelling it and making the decision to sit. Here's sniff, comes out. Right, now it's delayed, too long. He's still thinking. He's asking me questions. Now he's sitting. Too late. Sniff. And sit. That was with a little help with the correction to try again. We want to help him, get to be successful. So he learns all these different configurations. One vial hidden between two chairs. Multiple vials hidden, in a drawer. 5 vials in a plastic bag hidden in a cinder block. Right. So all these are new situations that at some point it'll just become normal to search for odor, period, and no longer are the situations any different. The find is going to be right here, between the 3rd and 4th chair from the other end. Again, we don't always want to use the 3rd and 4th chair because dogs actually can eventually count at some point. So right here is where it's going to be, right where he just went by. Right, and he'll get his nose in there, and this time it works a little bit faster. Watch this. This is, again, there he smells it. I recognize that he smells it. And because he was actually constantly in motion, we went ahead and gave him the toy. Those were decisions he made on his own without me having to influence him. So here we're going to come and show you the vials. And see it right there? It's sticking there right in between the, it just kind of holds itself. I didn't have to use tape, which is always good. Trying to figure out how I can hold the camera and get it out at the same time without it's glass, so I don't want it hitting the ground. I was sweating bullets, trying not to let it hit the ground there and not drop my phone. There we go. All right, here's the vial. And again, You know, some people will say, well, he should have done this and that. Well, we're not, again, he's searching for those little tiny bugs that have been sitting there for about 30 minutes prior to us doing a search. Really, there's a very minute amount of odor coming out to where this dog can smell it.
Good boy.
I think this is pretty incredible. So here's the other vial. Same type of thing sitting there between the plastic and the handle. And I'm not sure if this is the one that has the multiple bugs in there. Oh, yes, it is. So you can see right there, see the adult, and then to the right of that adult, you can see that little white speck. Those are babies. You can actually see them. If I hold it long enough, you see those little babies that are kind of around there. All right. So coming back to here, so hopefully you got some things out of this one too. Again, different configuration in regard to the amount of things the dog is now being required to search, which his brain now has to work a little bit harder. We threw in the training for him releasing the toy, which is obedience, right? We had him sit a couple times and had him let go. That works on the dog's brain. We brought it down to a single vial with differing numbers of bed bugs between adults and nymphs and eggs and that kind of stuff. And what else? There was one other thing then. Oh, a new toy, right? We brought in a new toy. So again, these things all work on a dog's head. We're talking about a 14-month-old dog learning this task that he's, has no idea what he's doing. Right? He has no idea why he's searching for this stuff and traveling to these new places. It's 103 degrees outside when we were doing this. I think the time before that it was 100 and something degrees. So, and he's from Northern Ireland. So. These are all things that as a trainer you need to be aware of and not be so impatient. That's the only thing I want to bring that up. There is a lot going on, regardless of what you think, right? Regardless of what you think as a human being, understand to the dog, there are a lot of things going on, and so you, the trainer, you, the handler, as you're going through this training, have to be patient in the early stages. As time goes on, we're going to be a little bit less patient, and at some point, if a dog is not doing what he's supposed to do, we just walk out and put him in the crate and end training. We go, hey, dude, you had plenty of time. You know what to do. You've been trained. You've been through these scenarios before. You get a little timeout. And then you bring the dog back in and do it again, right? So there is that's how we lose. That's how not how we lose patience. That's how we draw the line from a dog that's learning, like Charlie is now, as opposed to a dog that has been trained and knows and has experience that is not doing the job, right? When that happens, then we're a little bit more strict in what it is we decide to do, but that comes later on. You see my involvement in pointing things out. I'm saying sniff here because you're going to find something there. Is happening now, but won't be happening later. I'm going to expect the dog to be doing that on his own, and he should not expect me to help him out continuously. Again, like any other job, when you're training an employee, in the beginning you're actually pushing the keys for them. You then show them what's key to push. You then wait for them to push the right key, and if they don't, then you tell them which key to punch, and then as time goes on, if they don't know which key to punch, then you fire them. Right? So you see that we're in the exact same steps that we would be in the training of employees, where we're showing them, where we're actually holding their hand, and then less hand holding, and then expecting to see results, but we're going to help if they get into trouble, and then at some point, hey, you got to know how to do this, or it's the end of the line for you. And so we're at that early stage yet, where we're still holding the hand a little bit, we're pointing things out, we're pretending we don't know. You tell me, and then when he does it, oh yes, you figured it out on your own, what a good dog, right? And that's how this all works. So hope that was helpful to you, and let's go ahead and go back to the live video, and we'll see you there at the live broadcast.
All right. The one thing I got distracted by that whole time watching that last end was my vacuum cleaner that was behind me. I haven't finished vacuuming my house. But those are really important points, and we eventually get to the point where with many handlers, where they walk into a room at the doorway, they put their dog into a sit, they tell the dog to go search, and they stand there at the doorway, and the dogs go and search the room without the handler. So I really find it necessary to point out, because I see so many handlers that get stuck into the mode where they're still pointing stuff out for their dog, and they've had their dog for 2, 3, and 4 years, and they're still telling the dog to seek, sook, sniff, whatever, search, and the dog's going, get out of my way. You're really irritating me. I know what to do now, right? The dog knows what to sniff, where to sniff, how to sniff, and how to take himself to source, that you don't have to be sitting there telling the dog what to do anymore. But That's not where Charlie's at. Charlie needs, because he has no clue still of what he's doing, and we get away from that. The other thing Chris pointed out is that he got a ball on a string, and the good news is he did it on his own. We were talking about the other day of some of the skills that you use to get a dog to release a ball. And at that time, I didn't think about the ball and the string thing until I was searching for something else. I forget. I think I was searching for another collar, another leash or something, and came across another box that had a bunch of yellow balls with strings on them. I go, yeah, let me just break this out, and I will break Charlie really quickly of not wanting to let go of the ball. And then I should have thought of Chris and said, hey, Chris, there's another way. I mean, there's always more than one way to skin a cat, right? And so that is it. You have the leash, you have the string. You don't let either one get tight. You only use a correction. You want to make sure. The one thing I didn't point out, I want to make sure that string doesn't get tight, Chris. If that string gets tight, the dog will bite down harder on the toy, and it will be harder for him to release because you're working on something that his brain is just responding to, and that is when he feels like he's going to lose something, the dog automatically bites down harder. So now you're going to be working against, if you do that, if you pull back on the string, you're going to be working against a natural behavior of the dog, which is to bite down harder when he perceives that he's going to be losing something because of tension, right? So you want to make sure that you have slack in the string that's attached to the ball, and slack in the leash because you need to use it for a correction. If you rewatch this and fast forward to that part with the ball, you'll see there's one point where I'm correcting the dog and bringing him closer to me because he's pulling back. And that's part of like the dog's reaction is that he's going to pull back because now he can fight, right? If he pulls back on the string, he can fight with the toy. If he pulls back on the collar, then I can't correct him. And so what we need to do is we need to bring the dog closer so you have slack in both those lines. If you don't, then nothing's going to happen. And so what I did, you can see I pulled the dog closer to get the line slack. That way now we can go into training mode. The string is slack, the leash is slack. I tell the dog, let go. He doesn't. I give him a correction. Then the dog lets go. So that only happens with slack. Power is in slack. There's so many handlers that I see with tight leashes trying to do stuff. You can do nothing with a tight leash. You can do nothing with a tight string on a ball that's in his mouth because the dog's going to bite down harder. It's one of the silliest things I saw through police work sometimes is that you have a handler pulling against this. The dog has a hold of this burlap or even the sleeve, and they're pulling against it, and they're telling the dog to let go. But you're working on opposites, right? The dog is feeling the tension, the dog is biting out harder, and then you're giving these really strong corrections, which is you're working against something the dog will do naturally if he feels the tension. The thing is, in order for the dog to begin to understand training, is that you got to put him in a position where he can be successful. It's hard for a dog to be successful when everything that he knows, everything that's in his brain, his genetics, is telling him to bite down harder, yet you're telling him to let go. All right. So make it easier on yourself and make it easier on the dog so that he can respond to what it is you're doing. All right. Back to the detection part of it. Again, if you're truly interested in understanding detection dogs and training, I think it's valuable to kind of watch the video. Again, there's subtle differences between the two. If there's anything I would have done differently, there was one thing. Oh my gosh. There was one. Oh, I'd have to watch it again now. So sorry while I have a brain fart. You got to watch this on live video. There was one thing that, there was his butt wasn't all the way down again. There's that one thing that that I'm missing with Charlie every so often. I'm not sure why. I rarely miss when his butt doesn't quite hit the ground. I think that out of my desire for him to actually get into a seated position because it's taken him a while. I think that what I'm doing is I'm missing the fact that his butt actually doesn't touch the ground. That's the one thing I got to make sure and pay attention to because this is like the second video that I've seen where he's going into the seated position and yet his butt doesn't touch all the way to the ground. You have to almost make it as if the dog is believing that his butt is triggering some type of button that's on the ground. So his butt needs to actually touch the ground to push the button, right? So you want to have that kind of thing pictured in your mind that the butt, the butt of the dog is literally pushing a button, which then causes the ball to appear, right? So I'm falling a little bit short on that. And again, this is the second time at least, there may be more, where his butt quite has not gotten to the ground and actually made contact. And so I want to make sure by watching video, that's why I think video is powerful. I was on the stand a couple weeks ago in wherever I was, I forget where I was. and this issue of taking video, and they go, oh, so you take video. Who takes video of their training? I go, I do. I think it's the most powerful thing that you can do. And I tell handlers, I said, video yourself doing training and watch. I'm watching myself do video or do training. I've been doing this for, again, about 30 years. And I'm critiquing what I'm doing. I go, oh man, I missed his butt going down, right? That's the power of video. I've been doing this so long that I should be able to see whether his butt is on the ground, but somehow from my position, and this is what happens, that's why you need to have a trainer watching you or a video camera so you can watch yourself. You are going to miss little things that are actually really important. And the fact that his butt was not all the way on the ground, to me is super important. That I have not waited, at least on 3 occasions that I can count just from my memory, where I rewarded and his butt was not touching the ground. All right. So we really want to make sure that happens. And I may have not have noticed it. And I didn't, right? I didn't even realize it at the time I rewarded because I was as happy as a clam, playing with him and praising him. And I can tell by what I'm doing is that I did not miss. I would have went, oh, I missed that his butt was on the ground. I would have done something that said, oh, because idiot, you didn't wait till his butt hit the ground. Because to me, that is a big thing. I would have said idiot to you if you didn't wait till your dog sat on the ground. And so when I'm watching myself on video, I'm going, oh man, I got to get that thing down. So video, very, very important. Set up the video, set up your phone. If you don't see anything that you like or don't like, whatever, once you've watched it, analyzed it, delete it and you make room. So you don't have to save every video. I do because I use them for training purposes, that kind of stuff, but you don't have to fill up your computer full of video or your phone. Just watch them and critique and go, oh, I could have done that a little bit better. Oh, the leash was tight. I should have made sure that the leash was loose. My timing was bad. You watch yourself drop the ball underneath your armpit for the second time and you go, oh, I got to stop doing that. I don't know what the hell's going on. Whatever that is, right? You're going to notice these things. You're going to file them away because watching yourself on video is very powerful. It actually ingrains it into your brain, just like journaling. By the way, I put a link for my journal in the comment section. You're going to want to get that journal. I just published it yesterday. It's brand new, and it's going to be $10.99 for a little while, and then I'm going to increase the price. And so you probably want to get a couple now so you have them, and they'll fit right on your shelf after you get through putting all the stuff in there, and they'll fit right on your shelf. So in the comment section on Falco Canine Academy's Facebook page is the URL for Amazon where you can find the Train the Dog Trainer journal. And again, I think I will make one for handlers. It'll have different questions that you guys can write down for your dogs. I think journaling, logging your training is really important. And these books are a great way to do that. And it makes it kind of fun. And you can, again, put it right on your bookshelf when you're done with it and then get your next one and go on, and write in there maybe, the date, because there's a section on the very first page where you can put this belongs to, and then you can put the date and time. Or date, not the time, just the date that the journal is for. Maybe the start date and the end date. That way you can pull it out and look at it. I probably should put something on the cover where you can do that too. I'll put maybe a little space on there that you can put on the cover. That way it's easier reference. You see me coming through and thinking about through some of these products that you can get. All right, so I'm going to create a handler journal also for you detection dog handlers, so you can make those. All right, I think that's it. I covered a lot on this one. And so make sure and comment, make sure and share and like, as many of you have been doing. And again, as usual, if you wouldn't mind giving us a good reference there on our Facebook page, there's a place to do it. Some people, for whatever reason, can't find it, but you can put stars, like 5 stars would be great. If you put anything less or feel like you need to, how about just sending me a message and telling me what you don't like about what it is we're doing? As opposed to not giving us a 5. That would be sad. All right. If you haven't done it yet, please find that place on our Facebook page to do that. And I will see you at the next one. Don't forget, in about an hour and a half or so, I'm going to come back and talk about the bonker. Oh, it's already 6 o'clock. Maybe but less. About an hour, I'll come back and talk about the bonker technique and my likes and dislikes and my opinion on it because I got asked a question about it. And that is it. All right. Thank you, Chris and Stuart, for joining us. And I see other people are on here, but you guys don't call. Oh, Jack, thank you very much. Great to see and hear your comments. Just started working with an out-of-control 12-pound Shih Tzu. Oh my, 12-pound Shih Tzu. That sounds heavy. No? Or is that small? It sounds kind of like a big Shih Tzu, I think. I don't get many Shih Tzus, so I'm not sure how much they weigh. I've had them in class, but we don't get a lot of them in our class. All right, Jack, again, thank you for joining me. And again, we're going to come back in about an hour with the bonker technique. All right, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.